Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Conversations for Our Time. This is podcast number 37. It has been a while since we've done a podcast last. I'm currently traveling in Southeast Asia. I just actually arrived to Vietnam a couple of days ago, spending time in Cambodia. And I know John has been very busy as well moving. So it's been a while. But we're back. We're back together, and we're going to do another podcast today. We hope you enjoyed the Grand Solar Minimum mini series. We went very much into detail of what that is, and we broke down the science of it, because that's what we do. We have to break things down as we continuously do on our podcasts. We break things down. We take all the components apart, and then we can see where everything fits together, where it makes perfect sense. So we think we did that. We think we've done a brilliant job of just letting the public know what it is. So we enjoyed doing that. So also, I hope there's not too much background information. I'm trying to. I'm in a quiet spot in my hostel, so I'm hoping it's not going to come across too loud. But today, we're going to go back into nature because we love nature, and we're going to go into a subject called biomimicry, which is a really interesting subject. John brought it to my attention a while back, and I've been looking into it. We've been already doing it anyway, which is the interesting thing about it. We're going to go into depth of it and how it connects us with nature. And everything that we do, it's connected to absolutely everything that we do in our lives. And it's another important subject which will help people to connect to nature, to really understand it more. Because she wants us to bring nature wants us to have it in our lives everywhere we go to and make it a big part like the ancients did. So we're going to go into that today. And John, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, George. Thanks for asking. It's great you're getting to travel. We don't know how much longer we'll be able to do that, so it's good you're out there and just experiencing these other cultures, man. That's really interesting. Just kind of like the subject we're talking about today is quite astounding, and it's such a far-reaching thing. And as you mentioned, we as a race, a human race species, we have been in this kind of pattern of biomimicry ever since our inception, ever since we've been observing nature and working out how we can be more effective as a species, i.e. not expend so much energy in creating or producing the things that we need to be able to live a comfortable life. One of the first earliest things probably would have been a campfire, right? Our ancestors would have noticed that fires are created naturally, right, through heat and magnification of that heat onto something combustible. And that's all we do. If you go, you've done a bushcraft course, George, you've learned how to start a campfire. It's a similar process that happens in nature. You're magnifying a heat source and using a combustible material to create fire. So that's biomimicry in its essence. But the Wikipedia explanation of biomimicry is this: biomimetics or biomimicry is the emulation of the model systems and elements of nature for the purpose of solving complex human problems. So those complex human problems can be, well, how do we grow enough food to eat? So this is a really interesting question. How do we grow enough food to allow the growing human population to survive and thrive? There's many people out there, groups, etc., who say that there's too many people on the planet, but that's actually rubbish. The problem is in our agricultural system, we don't actually emulate nature. We grow massive amounts, thousands of acres of one crop. There's nowhere on the planet, nobody can name anywhere on the planet that where nature grows just one crop. It doesn't work because nature is about biodiversity. Yeah. So the reason I brought this up is because the world is becoming more and more monocultured in regards to, there's just one size fits all. And whilst I was preparing for this morning, I thought to myself the question of like, all this renewable technology that's being touted by, think tanks and governments and other institutions, it's not renewable. What the ego of some humans, or the thirst, the greed, or whatever you want to call it, has produced these substandard ways of producing power. Yeah. So the best example, I think, or one of the best examples, current examples, is solar panel. So the solar panel has now turned into a massive industry. It's hundreds of billions of dollars industry. Most of these are pushed by the big oil companies, which, says a lot. But so there's loads of solar panel fields going up everywhere in the world. America is massive. Africa's becoming a big wasteland of these solar panel fields. And here in the UK, there's these proposed kind of projects by the government to take away farmland, and they've been doing this for the last decade. Take away farmland, and instead of growing food, we produce energy through solar panels. Now, if you're using solar panels in the UK, the efficiency of a solar panel is 18%. That is awful. It's absolutely awful. So 1 acre of solar panels per year produces 9.3 gigawatts of energy per year. If you're growing biofuels, same amount of space, you produce actually 4 times that amount, 29.3 gigawatts per hour. So there's a huge, and you can keep planting every year, you can have a new crop, right? Plus you don't get the horrible lithium and cadmium runoff, because when solar panels are exposed to the environment, they can leach into the soil. You're not having to produce or use energy to produce the solar panel, and you have to throw them away. But if you're growing plants, none of that applies, and they're self-regulating. So you grow an acre of rapeseed, you don't need to buy more rapeseed oil. You just allow a few of them go to seed, and you replant them again. And plus, you can intercrop, so you can intercrop with other crops that you can actually eat. So the reason I brought that up is because there's biomimicry, which is in line with nature, and then there's this kind of artificial biomimicry. So we have to be very careful about which one we look at and invest in and put our energy in and believe, because there's a lot of good intentioned people out there, like, I can name certain groups, but like Extinction Rebellion, who believe that all this renewable power is in line with nature, it's taking care of nature, but that's bullshit. The problem is when we think that we can do things better than nature, that is not biomimicry. It's a false deity. What we're talking about is, so for instance, if you did this with corn, and corn is very good for producing ethanol, which can be used to run cars and vehicles, right? If you did the same thing with corn, you'd also be sequestering carbon into the soil. Now, I'm not talking about carbon dioxide as in carbon dioxide is a problem. I'm saying if we sequester more carbon in the soil, our soil will be richer, so we can actually grow better plants. So biomimicry is a beautiful way of it's a beautiful opportunity for us to connect with nature. So if we want to feed ourselves, improve nature, improve the environment, then we can do things like intercropping, agroforestry, where we can be growing crops for fuel, growing crops to eat, growing crops to clothe ourselves, growing crops like trees to make materials, growing crops for herbs, for medicine. We can be doing this all in the same area. They all work together. We don't need these divisions, we just need to observe, understand, reflect, see how it works in our life, and then we can find a way forward where we're partnering with nature. And this is what permaculture, biodynamics, natural farming, it's all about this synchronization, with Mother Earth, Father, Son. We have these, I know we've talked about this before, George, but the sun protects us from the crazy energy coming from space. So the sun provides all the energy, and the earth nurtures all of us. She nurtures us without any kind of inequality. Everyone gets the same, right? This is the beauty of nature: is she isn't discriminatory. She is just there to give us what we need. But if we keep taking and don't give something back, we're fucked. So that's kind of my little spiel on biomimicry, George. I'm sure you've got something you might like to add. But I think it's a beautiful thing, and I want to, in the course I'm designing, I want to bring this in as an element so people can really understand. And one other thing I'd just like to mention is, if we can use this biomimicry in our bodies to regenerate ourselves, regenerate our skin, our eyesight and all these kind of things, we can become more human, because the type of life we lead, where we're exposing ourselves to too much of this artificial stuff, we're actually drifting away from being human. And I think the more we get in touch with nature, the more human we'll become.
And I think that's the crux of it. I think that's the crux of it, John, is exactly what you said there at the end of that. And the system that we live in has a very bad habit of doing things in a profit kind of way, and not environmentally friendly. It's not for our best interests at heart, and it's not for the betterment of our health. It's not anything to do with that. And we have to rethink the way that we do everything. We have to rethink absolutely everything as a society. Now, more and more people are caring about this, and more people are talking about it, which is what we want. Like, you brought biomimicry into my life, so we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it more. We're going to pass it on to everyone we talk to, because it's got to be the most important thing. And we need to have this connection with nature. We've been doing this actually for such a long time. By making the connection that we have been doing it, we need to know what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I think a great way to have an even better connection with biomimicry is breaking down the word, because this is what I do. I'm very much into etymology, as you know, John, and people will know on my podcast that when we break things down, we understand it and we make that conscious connection to it. This is what it's about. It's about a conscious connection. So if we look at the word biomimicry, so we're looking at the word bio, which is life, and we're looking at mimic. It's got the word mimic, copy, in the actual word, which is astounding. It's there and it's letting us know. And then it ends in the word re, or so you've got re and you've got eri, which is ERY. Now both of these, both uses that they're used to form nouns that refer to things in a collection, right? So you've got greenery for green plants as a group. You've got peasantry. You've got chemistry. You've got palmistry. So this is how the word is actually used, like ending in basically the suffix. So it's important to break it down because I love it. Greenery. This is what nature is about. Greenery. Greenery is the color of nature. So we connect biomimicry to nature. Nature is life. And then we sit down and we contemplate this. What is life? How does it work? What do we need to do to make it work? Then you're really doing the introspective work and you're really examining nature to see how it works. And this is what she wants. She wants us to bring her into our lives. So another great example is the forest. Now, you look at a forest, it's the perfect example of it continues to grow. It continues to develop. It continues to thrive. It doesn't go backwards. Nature has a special way of trying to balance out. This is what this whole realm is all about, and this is what I continuously talk about. Balance. Nature is always going to a balance, and this is what the whole thing of anthropogenic global warming. There's no issue with that because the Earth is always balancing. There's no excess. If there is an excess of CO2, carbon sinks. We know this. But it's the balance of everything in this realm. And this is what the color green is all about, nature. It's the heart chakra. It's the color of the heart chakra. The heart isn't really associated with the color red. It's associated with green because green brings balance. It's the middle chakra of the 7 main chakras in the chakra systems that we have. So we have to understand the principles of nature. And this is the crux of it. We need to understand the principles of permaculture, which we've gone into in the early days of Conversations for Our Time podcasts. And we mimic nature. That's what permaculture is about. Principles in natural law. You've got like the principle of rhythm. We need to be in the rhythm of nature. Yeah, even the good times and the bad times, because obviously, nature is a force. It's a powerful force. And, in these settling times, in the summer times in January, the last, not talking about grand solar minimum, but generally the summer is beautiful and it's lovely. And then you've got autumn or winter where nature creates storms and heavy storms. And, we have to take that into consideration. Everything is an ebb and flow. We have to be in the rhythm of nature because when we're out of sync, this is when we need to come back into balance more than ever. So it's the continuation, forests. It's a continuation of recycling materials, regenerating our soil, capturing and using rainwater, allowing the rain to cleanse our air, without pollution. And this is what we've done. This is the karmic consequences. And this is what we need to understand. nature is not going to stop us from doing what we want to do. She's just going to express that there is a balance that she needs to give out. If we're going to, live in these cities, it's not the most natural way, but we need to take into consideration the pollution and damage it's doing, and we are getting in the way of nature. We need to get out of the way and let her express herself, because she is expressing herself. She wants us to pay attention. She wants us to pay attention and to look at her structure and all the components, how she works. And we just need to be inspired by nature, don't we, John?
Exactly, George. And yeah, I really like what you said there, mate. It's very, nature is always balancing. And I've been contemplating about this recently, the current global climate. And so, from our perspective, we know about grand solar minimum, etc. Now, we know that when the sun weakens in its output, its radiative output, its magnetic field reduces, so does Earth. What this does, this allows more cosmic rays to get into the Earth's atmosphere, which, according to Svensmark and his work, creates more cloud nucleation. Okay? So, my thought was, well, if we're getting increased UV radiation, which is damaging to life, what's the Earth going to do? The Earth is going to rebalance, it's going to recompensate, it's going to create more cloud to protect the life that's on the planet already. So it's like a buffer, right? So you can use the same analogy with the forest, yeah? In the summer, now this is the great thing about nature is an object or a life-forming nature does not just carry out a function or for one purpose. It has many purposes. So in the springtime, the leaves will start growing for the tree, right? That in one hand allows photosynthesis to take place, yeah, which allows the tree to go through the cycle of bearing fruit so it can then reproduce. But also, what do the leaves do? The leaves provide a canopy which covers the soil and protects the soil from eroding, protects the soil from evaporation. So all the moisture that's held in the soil is protecting it so the tree can take care of its resources, i.e. the water that's already stored in the soil that's happened during the winter and the spring. So this rebalancing, sometimes we're like, oh, fuck, everyone's been moaning about the cloud recently. But I'm thinking, yeah, but when you know things on the macro scale and you know what's happening, I believe it's nature's way of just buffering herself against these external influences. And the same can be for ourselves, In the winter, we hibernate, we go inwards. Why do we go inwards? Because we're reflecting upon the activities of the year. We're thinking about, if you're in the cycles of nature, why do we have seasons? It's for the same reason. Is the Earth, the UK is great in regards to its seasons. It's so beautiful when you allow yourself to be in them, because you learn, if you're in rhythm with nature like our ancestors would have been, you make a lot of your work is done in the spring, right? If you're growing food, you're planting in the spring. You're doing all your planting in the spring, and that's where most of the work happens. And then in the autumn, when you're harvesting. But the summertime, you slow down a little bit because it's warmer. So you don't want to be doing as much work. It's more about observing you know, the fruits of your labour, seeing it all grow. And then in the winter time, you know, our bodies slow down and we pay more attention into going inward. So then this is exactly what nature does. It slows right down. The trees, all their energy goes underground into the roots. I hope people can really kind of understand the you know the analogies I'm kind of citing here, because I think it's really important that we look at how these living forms, um, you know, behave in the different seasons and during night and day. And actually, the more we emulate and copy that, the more we'll be in touch with our bodies, the less we'll be in our little heads, you know, that try and tell us what's happening when they don't really know because it's all based on, you know, egoic conditioning. But we are, if we're in rhythm with nature, we can really witness her beauty and really be in the moment, be in the now. We don't have to be worrying about the future or regretting the past. We're just here right now, as you and me are, George, on different sides of the world, talking about something beautiful like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll have to agree with a lot of what you're saying there. Absolutely. And this is the beautiful thing. This is the beautiful thing with nature, you know. And it's funny that you used the leaves as an example, because I wanted to use leaves as an example for something else here as well. So, you know, look at leaves. Yeah, leaves are the best water distribution network. Okay. We have what we call Murray's Law. Okay. All it's basically all branching structures of the natural world, you know, including our lungs. Yeah, this is how much we're really connected here with nature. You know, that follows a single mathematical formula, right? It's it's the pipe branches, it drops down to a smaller diameter and then branches again. Yeah, this is the growing process and does this over and over again. So it's another cycle. Yeah. And the bronchioles, you know, the branches of the lungs. Yeah. And the branches of this is the same as we have the tree of life within us. We have an upside down tree of life with us. This is a concept of one of the Jewish mystery traditions, which is the Kabbalah. This is the tree of life. Okay. So it's an upside down tree within us. And the roots are going up in the head, right? Which is the roots are going up in the heavens, really. But the bronchioles are the branches of the lungs and the branches of the pneumogastric nerve, the vagus nerve system, which is the tree of life. We are actually the same. Yeah, we've gone into this with microorganisms in the soil and in our gut and the trillions of cells. There's no difference really with us and a tree, you know. So even if you look at the green building, the organisation that they're of the environmental. So they're starting to rethink the way that we do plumbing. They're starting to rethink the way that we do electricity, you know, gas, water, you know, even the airing system. The whole distributing factor that they're taking into consideration, mimicking Murray's law. So we need to look into how to do things differently. And I am conscious of the time. We still have another 5 minutes. But I'm just going to continue this last little bit, where we need to be inspired by nature, how she works and how she looks to get back into balance. You know, we need to look at things in more of a sustainable way to do things. Yeah, organisms. Yeah, if you look at organisms, tiny organisms have their policies ingrained in their DNA. They know what to do. They know how to do all of this. Yeah, They nature is also, it just knows how to do things best. It doesn't, it knows how to do things. It doesn't make mistakes. Yeah. Well, we shouldn't be trying to better nature at all. We need to get out of that mindset. It already has a sequence to life and death and certain principles. Yeah. Nature is life and life is nature and life is already a genius. Why are we trying to make it, better? Yeah, so we need to gather certain branches together. We need a new modern way of doing things. We need biologists, we need permaculturists, the environmentalists, the botanists. All these kinds of industries need to really work together with this within the frame of mind of biomimicry. So another lady to get into. I've been listening to a little bit of Janine Benyus. Yeah, she really has a passion for this biomimicry. And if you just listen to what she's saying, she's so connected and centered with nature. She's trying to bring it out of us, bring it into our lives. And it all goes back to self-love. It has to go back to self-love. Don't pollute yourself. Your body, you know, doesn't want that pollution. We have to be careful of what we put into our bodies. Yeah. Because we're going to see that on the external world. As I say, we are the same. The world is polluted because I'm not judging anyone for what they put into their bodies, but, cigarettes, alcohol, junk food, we're polluting our bodies. If you look at the pipe system in the plumbing in a house, it's the same as our lymphatic system. If things get blocked and it starts overrunning, that's that muck, the mucus we need to clear out. So we're going to be a reflection to the outer world. That's the way that it works. But if we have an affection for nature, you have to have an affection with yourself first. Yeah. Then you begin to admire nature. That admiration turns into adoration. And that, adoration turns into completely being in love with nature, which is what you want for yourself. And we need to have that connection to nature. We already live in a sustainable world. Yeah, it already exists in nature. And nature is showing us how to do it. She's here to evolve as well, but with her principles. Yeah, so principle means first thing, right? She comes first. And this is what we need to take into consideration. Yeah, all organisms are working together, as a network unconsciously. They adapt to create an absolute Eden, yeah, and heaven for themselves. Are we really emulating these organisms, these systems, and these networks? These are the questions that we have to ask for ourselves. Yeah, nature already has that sustainable world. Yeah, we need to get out of the way. Yeah, we already have a design inspired by nature, and this is what we've got to remember. We just need to we need to become conscious of it, awaken within, and we just need to open up to ourselves, to it all. The answers are always within nature and ourselves. Yeah, because we are one and the same thing, John.
Yeah, exactly, George. Thanks for that, mate. Yeah, so this pattern you're talking about is called a dendritic pattern, and it's
Okay,
everywhere.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in rivers. It's the mycelium in the soil, and it's also a fractal pattern, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same as a spiral, as a Fibonacci spiral. These are universal truths, and this is the thing. They are the truth. These patterns are probably the closest thing we can get to the truth, because everything else is an interpretation of that. All human designed philosophy, culture, religion, enlightenment are all interpretations of it. They are what the truth is. And it's we have to be really careful to and this is the best thing about being in nature is if we can ground ourselves, find a bit of grass or go out into the woods or the forest or wherever on the beach and take your shoes and socks off and just sit there, stand there. You can even put your hands, your palms on the ground and feel the earth breathing. This is, as a human species, this is why we are here. We are here to be stewards of the land. Of course, we're here to have experiences, but this ebb and flow of thinking we're, civilized, but being completely disconnected, and then looking at like maybe tribes throughout the planet and calling them uncivilized. I mean, it's insane. So we are. This has been a fascinating subject to talk about because I think it's something that everyone can connect to in some way, whether it's through the breath, through meditation, through growing food, through creating music or dancing. But this is, look at nature is dancing all the time. So even if you just dance in your living room with nobody watching, go and do it. See how it makes you feel without any judgment. So yeah, what a fascinating podcast, George. I'm really happy we both did this, and looking forward to the next one. So thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you found it valuable and you got something from it. And we'll plan to do one next week as well, as long as me and George can find the time in our busy schedules. And I hope everyone's enjoying the sunshine. Enjoy it while it's here. And let's just celebrate being alive. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, John. See you next week.
Pond 5.